Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. Today we will be talking about bilateral ties between Pakistan and Afghanistan. We know that on April 19, 2025, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Senator Ishaq Dar, visited Kabul on the invitation of acting Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Muttaqi. This was Senator Ishaq Dar's first official visit since assumption of his office. When we talk about this visit, he held a day-long meetings with different leaders, officials of Afghan interim government, including acting Prime Minister and acting Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs. And when we look at these meetings, a significant development took place, that is regarding, of course, both sides pledged not to allow their territories to be used for terrorist activities or by nefarious elements. In today's program, we'll be talking about what needs to be done by both sides. And of course, when we talk about this important visit, we know that Afghan refugees repatriation was also an important issue discussed in this meeting. Beyond security and migration, the discussions spanned full spectrum of bilateral ties between Pakistan and Afghanistan, including economic and trade relations between both the countries. In today's program, we'll be talking about dimensions of these bilateral ties and what mechanisms are going to be in place in coming days when it comes to security, as well as repatriation of illegal foreigners and Afghan refugees from Pakistan. And we will also be talking about the regional and beyond implications of these ties. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by General retired Tariq Rashid Khan, who is defense analyst. Welcome to the program. We are also joined by Major General retired Zahid Mahmood, who is defense analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for that.
And we are joined online by AVM retired Ijaz Malik, who is senior analyst. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan, who is senior analyst and security analyst. Welcome to the program. Former Ambassador Tariq Rashid, let me start with you. When we look at Pakistan-Afghanistan relations, we know that there has been many ups and downs, especially in the past 2 months when Pakistan and Afghanistan almost came at the edge of war. And now this significant visit came about. How do you view this visit, keeping in mind the context and the repatriation of Afghans taking place, and also the security situation in KP and Balochistan? What are your key takeaways from this visit?
Thank you very much. I think this was a very important visit, and it was long overdue. I think in the last 2.5 to 3 years, this is the highest level visit which has taken place. And Ishaq Dar Sahab is a very seasoned politician, and also he is the foreign minister and the deputy prime minister of Pakistan. So what I have seen in the media and reports which have come about, this has been a very successful visit. He had interaction with the highest level, and the Afghan government has assured him that they will do their best, that their territory is no more is allowed to host or any sort of terrorism, for example, activity which takes place in Pakistan. They've also agreed to take back the Afghan refugees. And I may add here that once Ishaq Dar Sahab was visiting Afghanistan, there was one of the highest level visit from Afghanistan taking place in Pakistan, headed by their Commerce and Minister of Industries, Nuruddin Aziz. He came with a high level delegation and explored the possibilities and avenue for enhancing the bilateral trades. I think our main issues with Afghanistan at the moment is the cross-border terrorism, whether in the shape of TTP activities in Pakistan, or whether in shape of BLA terrorists operating in some areas of Balochistan, and also the repatriation of our Afghan refugees. I think no country in the world gets affected as we get affected because of happening in Afghanistan. And on our eastern border, we know there's a big country like India, who's 6 times larger than us, and they are investing very heavily in the Chabahar port, or also they have, I think, undertaken about 500 various projects in almost all the provinces of Afghanistan. There's a huge infrastructure development taking place with the help of China, and Russia is also exploring, investing heavily in the oil and gas industries. So a lot is happening in Afghanistan, and I think the time has come, and this visit should have taken place a little earlier, but it's never too late. And I think this visit will have far-reaching effect in improving the Pakistan-Afghanistan relation. We also need to understand their difficulties. If there are
of course, we will be talking about those difficulties as well. But General Zahid, when we look at this visit, first, what's your key takeaway from this visit? And also, like General Sahab also alluded to, that security remains a key issue. Although we know that Afghanistan keeps on pushing for refugees issue and the trade between both the countries, and there has been some progression on those grounds as well, which we will be discussing later in the show. But Senator Ishaq Dar told reporters, quote unquote, we have requested our hosts that we have to work together for progress, betterment and peace and security of the region. How do you take this statement? Do you think that this is one-sided sentiment from Islamabad at this point in time?
Thank you very much, Mariam, for the invite. And I agree with General that this is very critical and important tour, and especially at this critical time. But for me personally, much more important than security and economics and financial issues and all that, for me the most important thing is that to assess the will and the will to implement whatever we decide. So I'm sure the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister must have an opportunity to talk to them. But as a Pakistani, I'm more interested what I'm saying, that did he find some will over there to create an environment where we can live in a better way, like a civic society. You know, unfortunately, we have not received we have never received anything good coming from Afghanistan, unfortunately. And then is there any, you know, they have the will to implement whatever we have decided. Because the biggest problem between Afghanistan and Pakistan today is the trust deficit. And unfortunately, our Afghan, we have been talking about our sacrifice, we have done this much for our brothers, whatever we have done in the past. I think as a Pakistani now, I will request all of you and all my Pakistanis to stop discussing on these lines, because now we have to deal Afghanistan with the simple formula of 2 + 2 is 4, and that is it. So it is the interest of Pakistan which we need to guard it, and we will have to take stances and actions according to whatever we are receiving. We have always given the best possible chance to the peace. We have given chance to the progress and prosperity of the people. But unfortunately, this setup in Afghanistan and the groups they are harboring and the groups they are supporting as proxy against Pakistan with the help of a sponsor, India, I think this is not acceptable, no more acceptable to the people of Pakistan. There were not many good sentiments, and unfortunately because of this negative approach of this interim setup, now people of Pakistan are stressing on their own government to deal with Afghanistan by while keeping all the necessary safeguard, and as well as to please take care of your interest, because we have sacrificed so much, $150 billion plus, 80,000 lives. This is not a small sacrifice. And Pakistan is not a banana republic. Army chief has already very clearly said that the life of Pakistan is much more important than our relationship with Afghanistan. And I think if this will is there, they have this trust deficit is gone, then we can talk about other things also.
Right.
We have to create that
trust deficit remains an important factor when we talk about Pakistan-Afghanistan relations. Let me bring in AVM retired Ijaz Malik Saab into the discussion. Ijaz Saab, what's your take on this? Especially, of course, we know that Senator Ishaq Dar has also invited Amir Khan Muttaqi to Pakistan for a follow-up visit. And what's your take on this? What substantive agenda should Pakistan be pushing for instead of vague promises?
Thank you. I will just take up from whatever General Zahid has just alluded to. he is right in saying that there is a trust deficit, and all the goodwill gestures and actions have been on the part of Pakistan, given our checkered history with Afghanistan. So at this stage, I think we need to put forward few very factual things on table with them. First of all, that we as a state, we want Afghanistan to be a stable, a prosperous, a developing country which is not posing any threat to any of its neighbors. Secondly, Afghanistan need to understand that they are a landlocked country and their lifeline support depends on Pakistan. Thirdly, they cannot have, a good relationship with Pakistan without addressing two of our major security concerns. One, their collaboration and tacit, support to TTP, who are, taking advantage of, the tacit, hospitality of interim Afghan government, and secondly, their growing ties with Indians, that is a point of concern for us. Then the next point is that to Afghanistan to develop and infrastructure development, their systems need to be revamped. So for all that, Pakistan is a linchpin. If they want a collaboration from China, it can be done under the auspices of BRI, and Pakistan is a major partner. And lastly, Pakistan has been a facilitator of Doha Accord. And even if today they look forward for recognition by any of the world, country, if they look forward for any assistance or any future engagement, they can't do it without Pakistan. So with all
Right.
these dependencies on Pakistan, how can they take us for granted? And whatever we do for them, whatever we have done for them, they just take it as a matter of right, and they do not show any gratitude for whatever we have done for them. So I think,
Right.
in very terms, uh, uh, army leadership, military leadership, they have very clearly shown our concern and where do we stand in terms of our national interest. And I'm sure our political leadership, with this visit of Deputy Prime Minister over there, they must have also conveyed these feelings on behalf of state of Pakistan as well as the total leadership of Pakistan.
Right, of course, very important points raised by AVM Ijaz Malik Saab. Now let me bring Brigadier Retired Waqar. Brigadier Waqar, of course, when we talk about Pakistan-Afghanistan relations, security remains the key issue for Pakistan. And keeping in mind this important visit of Ishaq Dar, at the joint presser, both sides, both Mr. Dar and Mr. Muttaqi, stated that neither side would allow nefarious elements to use territory against the other. In your opinion, how enforceable is this decision or statement going to be, and what kind of mechanisms are needed, keeping in mind our porous borders?
I think when you're dealing with the neighbors or any other country, you have to basically operate in five domains. Of course, one is the psychosocial, then you have political, informational, diplomatic, and military, especially with the neighbors. And Pakistan has to use all the leverages, and diplomacy is always welcome. We have tried it earlier also, but somehow Taliban government took it for granted. And unfortunately, despite all efforts, for the investment conference were held in Islamabad, Pakistan pleaded their case for diplomatic isolation, even at regional level. And later on, I think we realized that basically they were using terrorism as a tool of policy. Now, I think if you look at inside Afghanistan, there's a lot of pressure on Taliban also. So this visit also comes due to number of factors. One is of course basically Afghan Resistance Front is very active, and Taliban now basically feel that within Afghanistan they have lost a lot of support, especially the women folk, like 20 million women are almost imprisoned. Then you have Trump policy, which is now seeing a gradual shift, no more dollars coming in. And then Pakistan was, I think, if you look at Pakistan-Afghanistan relation, there are, I think, five major leverages, positive that Pakistan has always used it positively for Afghanistan. One is Afghan transit trade, Afghan refugees. We have hosted 5 million on the average in last 40 years, which is a kind of a record. Like 5 million may not be population of a lot of European countries. So you are literally housing a country, and for good reason that they were our brother and sister, but ultimately they had to go back. But in return, and then of course, there are the diplomatic efforts, informational. There are almost 300,000 Afghans cross towards Pakistan every month for the various reasons, for businesses, for studies. Even women come here for treatment. But all told, I think we got a very negative response. Somehow, Taliban took it for granted that they can, Pakistan was a pushover. But I think Pakistan is now, for last 2 years, adopted a very solid stance, which should be by any state. Diplomatically, we have, I think, played very well regionally. Taliban are isolated in Moscow format last year. They're very clearly told, by Russia, Pakistan, China, Central Asia, and Iran, that they have to shut down these terrorist factories. Iran is building a multi-billion-dollar wall. So all told, there is a kind of environment where I think Taliban is also under pressure. But diplomacy should be given a chance. I'm not saying that. But looking at the past record, I think we should basically take it with a pinch of salt. We should hope that Taliban can walk the talk and things improve, because within Pakistan, I think there have been serious operations against two terrorist entities, PLA and TTP, which basically has the origin in Kabul or the base. And
Very important points raised by you, and we have to take everything when it comes to Taliban government with a pinch of salt. And it reminds me of the recent report that you also have read about, BBC reporting that about 500,000 US-made weapons were smuggled out of Afghanistan. So when it comes to security and these joint statements coming out of Afghanistan and the promises, what's your take on this? How we are going to go about it, and can we trust Taliban at this point in time when they are actually selling those US weapons?
All the points which you've just mentioned, I take it from the perspective that in the past we have, as a Pakistani government, we have dealt with the world, especially with Afghanistan, based on our religious ties, the Afghan Brotherhood, or ethnic, for example, ties, Pashtun living across both sides of the border. We need to have, as has been highlighted by worthy panelists, that we need to now see our relation more objectively. We have to see on the reciprocity basis. We have to keep the interests of Pakistan supreme while having relation bilateral ties. We need to, for example, restore the saying of Qaeda Muhammad Ishaq that we want to have peace with everybody, peace with all and enmity with the none. So as Afghanistan is concerned, we need to have more objective reappraisal of that. Afghan refugees have to go back. We have to very strict mechanism on the cross-bordering terrorism or anybody coming. We have to document that. There should be zero tolerance for illegal smuggling of weapons or smuggling of oils, narcotics, which has come in, for example, we keep getting hold of a lot of caches by our anti-drugs our forces. And then we also have to involve a regional major player in our bilateral relation with Afghanistan. One is a bilateral relation, and other is a multilateral relation. We have to incorporate China, we have to incorporate Russia. We also have to incorporate
trilateral, multilateral
so that
mechanisms
you engage
available.
them more comprehensively. And if they don't come to terms, not only that you can put pressure bilaterally, you can also put pressure multilaterally. So what India is doing in Afghanistan, they can do it, we cannot stop them. But at least what we can do in Pakistan, for develop Gwadar port make it fully functional, enhance and speedily completing the phase 2 of the CPEC. Because as I mentioned in earlier comments, they are investing in Chabahar. They have already established 217 kilometers of road from Iran's border to Dilaram and onward linking it to...
But at the same time, General Sahab, when it comes to Pakistan's policy towards Afghanistan, don't you think that we have been very focused on how India deals with Afghanistan? Shouldn't our policy be independent of India's policy towards Afghanistan?
No, definitely it has to be independent, but we have to take into account the regional environment because India is our major enemy. What India has got interest in, for example, in Afghanistan. As per se, they said that we want to develop relation with Central Asian state. So if they have good relations with Pakistan, if they resolve the issue of Kashmir with us, we can give them the direct access to Afghanistan and to Central Asian state. Why don't they resolve Kashmir issue with us? So whatever we can do as a nation, that we should do. And instead of firefighting, we need to have a long-term planning. So what are our long-term objective with the Afghanistan? What are our long-term objective with the Middle Eastern countries? How we see our relation with India? I think the better sense prevail if the India, Pakistan, especially India is able to resolve the Kashmir issue with Pakistan. You just imagine this whole region, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Central Asian state, China. This is more than half the population of the world. And you can become such a strong bloc. But for that, you have to have that leadership of all these I mentioned countries to work for the people of their respective nations.
Right. Right, of course, those remains an important factor, and we will be discussing the Indian factor as well. But right now, I want your comment on this BBC's report, and also can we trust Taliban as partners in security, or it would be just another disaster in the making? And because we know that Mr. Dar and Mr. Muttaqi agreed to form a joint mechanism or sort of committee with embassies, interior ministry, and intelligence reps as well. Do you think these kinds of mechanisms can stall? What kind of mechanisms should be taken at this point in time that are actually implementable as far as security and Afghan refugee crisis is concerned?
Well, Mariam, you have asked a few things. As far as the weapons are concerned, you know, the Afghan government has already taken up their stance, especially in response to what President Trump once he announced that once he asked them to return those weapons if you want to carry. So they have taken up their response that these are our weapons and this is after that war. So we are not, it means that they are not in a mood to hand them over. Once they are not in a mood to hand them back to United States, who left those weapons now deliberately, are, I mean, this was a mistake by them. That is a $1,000,000 question. I have no doubt that these were left there deliberately to create, to continue with the chaos and confusion in the region, so they can use it later on for the friction against any of their competitor in the region. So this is my point of view. I may be wrong in this, but I don't think, because this was not an ordinary withdrawal of some Houthi group or some rebel groups. The NATO was withdrawing from Afghanistan, and we being in the military, we understand that once you withdraw or once you take out your troops, if you can't take out the weapons, you destroy them. You don't leave them in the hands of the enemies. And now the threat is emanating from Afghanistan to west again. So today, unfortunately, we are again back at 1999-2000. Now coming back to your question, what Pakistan should be doing, again, you know, we need to establish the trust first, as I said earlier also, and then you can create different working groups, monitoring groups, and very strictly, you know, you have to set the timelines and as well as small objectives. You must achieve those objectives within the given timelines. Otherwise,
binding mechanisms.
Yes, binding mechanism where you're supposed to take the next phase before, you can't take start the next phase without completing the initial phase or the previous phase, you know. Otherwise, trusting Afghanistan, as I said, I was a second lieutenant, probably a very young commissioned officer when I saw these mujahideen sitting in Haram Park, Khana Kaaba, and making a pact, you know, and once they went back, I retired as a major general. I haven't seen any change in their society. So this is, and secondly, this government is a byproduct of the war. This is not a government of some popular democratic process, you know. So they are answerable to the people of Afghanistan, that what look they are doing. They're not answerable even to the people of Afghanistan. Refugees are going back from Pakistan. This is I can feel for those people who lived here for lives. They've been brought up here. They were attached with the progress and prosperity in Pakistan, but unfortunately they have to go back. But who is responsible? This is a big question. Pakistan is not responsible. This is their own government back home who are responsible for their future miseries. They're not even answerable to their people. They're not bringing peace for the, so there is a trust deficit. I think initially this mechanism has to be there, and the Indian argument which we are doing, I think we cannot ignore India as far as the security of Pakistan is concerned. They are the big proxy. If Americans stop giving them the dollars, 47 million dollars a week, but Indians, then there will be more major characters, because the future war in this region and internationally will be waged by the proxies of the big powers. No conventional militaries. We are not going to see boots in Afghanistan now coming from America or the West.
But at the same time, I must ask you this question that do you think that Islamabad's policy for decades has been Indian-centric towards Afghanistan, has mirrored that, and it has backfired now badly? And do you think that we should be rethinking our policy towards Kabul?
Yes, of course, the rethinking is already there. So we have to reset the board once again, you know, but you can't ignore India. But I'm not saying that we should be Indian-centric as far as Afghanistan, because on the social, economic, political, other factors, the India should not be figuring out in that. But as far as the security is concerned, of course, because India is waging war with the help of the Afghan interim setup and the proxies, and their clients are there, the BL is there, BR is there, BRF is there, but this Fitna al-Khawarij are there. They are the clients of the India. They are the sponsor state.
Of course,
so then they're stationed in
right.
Afghanistan. So we cannot ignore as far as the security and operation. Rest, Afghanistan wants to have good relationship with India. They must have. If India's invested $300 billion for the welfare of Afghanistan, it should be welcomed. But Afghanistan should know that the Muslims who are living within the India, there's a lot of hate for those Muslims. They are coming up with the Waqf bill, anti-Muslim laws. So they're not sincere to the Muslims. So this investment is only to create to destabilize this region and nothing else.
Right, of course, we will be talking about the soft power of India and Pakistan as well, as far as Afghanistan is concerned. But AVM Ejaz Malik Sahab, when we talk about Pakistan's policy towards Afghanistan, of course, we know that after Taliban took over Afghanistan in 2021, Pakistan was expecting a friendly government as far as our western border is concerned. But do you think that was a strategic miscalculation at the time, and now what kind of rethinking is required? Of course, like General Sahab also alluded to, that there has been a lot of rethinking, and that is apparent in our policies towards Kabul as well. But what kind of mechanisms do you suggest at this point in time?
I was saying definitely there was a segment of our society, our government, our political leadership, who were overjoyed and over optimistic after takeover of Kabul by the Taliban after departure of NATO forces. But the result that we have seen, our policy with Afghanistan definitely needs fresh revisit, because we have seen different phases after Soviet invasion, then the departure of Soviets, and then Pakistan under some international compulsion and some domestic pressures. Then Pakistan, have been moving back and forth as far as our stance was concerned. With the first Taliban regime, we installed them there. There is no doubt about that. Of course, the global powers were supporting us, and there were other countries as well. But then ultimately, 9/11 happened, and then rest is the history. So now I think we need to revisit our Afghan policy. And as regard your question, that should it be India-centric? It may not be India-centric, but then in this complex problem, India is a key driver. India is a key player. And once we contemplate this situation and way forward, we have to apply the lens of Indian intervention there, Indian interest there, then the lens of regional stability, access to Central Asian states. So all these things have to be factored in, and solution for each segment of this policy should define. And I would say that our military leadership is very capable and very clear what they want to do and what they can do within the ambit of their constitutional responsibilities. I think this is time that our political leadership should come forward and create a consensus, whether in the form of some committees in the parliament or through an APC, because even now there are some segment of our political leadership who have a difference of opinion as far as how to deal with Afghanistan is concerned. Some people openly resent our kinetic application, which we are rightfully doing whenever we are forced to do that. So I think we need to develop a consensus, we need to revisit our policy, and then united as a nation, as a state, as a responsible country, we should deal with Afghanistan from a position of strength. That's my take on it.
Right, right. Of course, that is very important when we talk about Pakistan's foreign policy with any country for that matter. The whole of nation approach is required, and of course foreign policy cannot work out effectively when our internal matters are not in order. But coming to you, Brigadier Retired Waqar, when we talk about Afghanistan's media at this point in time, we are witnessing that Afghan poets are now romanticizing Taliban rule, and many of the media and media personnel and other segments of society, academia, etc., which were earlier against Taliban rule, are now building a narrative that is anti-Pakistan. What's your take on that? Do you think that Pakistan is losing its soft power in Afghanistan, even after we hosted Afghan refugees for over 3-4 decades?
I think I'll just briefly touch the history and then come to the answer. Afghanistan last 40 years seen about 12 violent regime changes, right from Sardar Dawood up to Taliban too. So it means every 4 or 5 years there was a regime change which was violent, less Ashraf Ghani and Mohammad Karzai period, which was under the auspices. There were two superpowers occupation out of 40 years, almost 30 years. So that's where it is actually. It's not a, let's say, isolated bubble, not New Zealand or Madagascar. Two superpowers are actually neighboring Pakistan. So it creates an instability. So I mean, anybody sitting in Kabul, you have to deal with. So Pakistan, let's say, old policies, and when you start exercising that, you can't actually have a static policy. So you have. The other thing I think regarding media is that basically I feel that Taliban regime is a scared regime. If you shut down 20 million women, you don't allow people to go to barber shops, or you can't wear a knicker to play football. So basically, it's an, I would say, unfortunately, an oppressive regime. And whatever media discourse that you see is basically because of that. I don't think so. There is a general, let's say, support for that. If that was the case, why millions of Afghans which are being repatriated from Pakistan and Iran don't want to go back to Afghanistan? This is a very major question, and I think Taliban should actually now start thinking if you have to live in community of nations as a normal state in third decade of 21st century. This this way of oppressing people and terrorism cannot work. So I maybe probably they'll understand it the hard way. So all this, I think, media. Then of course there is the input coming from India. Lot of I think fake one handles are operating from Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi, and we know that. So basically, they are trying to kind of create more dissension or let's say division between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But by and large, a few statements by these people does not reflect the let's say sentiment of Afghanistan. If you want to know the sentiment, ask those 20 million women that are locked up inside. Ask those millions of Afghans we actually don't want to go back. What's the fear factor? It means that they are not very comfortable. People like to actually run away from there. So they have to, I think, look inside. And definitely, this diplomatic effort is welcome. And on the media domain, I think Pakistan needs to engage. We should have debate, but who's going to debate from the other side? Where I think in some of the provinces, even watching video was banned and called haram. So that's the kind of environment there is. So I think we should not be too much concerned about it. But definitely through social media and mainstream media, you can do some engagement
Right.
and have some discussion.
Right, of course. And moving on, Brigadier Waqar, when we talk about repatriation of Afghan refugees, of course, that remains a key issue for Pakistan at this point in time. And of course, we know that Pakistani government launched or announced this IFRP in November 2023. And it is now going to be entering in its third phase in June. With over 1.35 million UNHCR registered Afghans and an estimated 600,000 arrivals post 2021. Now, do you think Pakistan can realistically repatriate these Afghans?
Effort has to go in. Unfortunately, there's hypocrisy here also. If you know Ashraf Ghani and Hamid Karzai regime, there were a lot of elite which was created inside Afghanistan for 20 years. There were judges, there were military officers, there were businessmen, there were all kind of people. And that was the elite which really had to run away when Taliban came back because there's a kind of enmity. Now this was promised by the West. Somehow people forget 700,000 was supposed to be absorbed by the West to include 50% going to EU, 50% going to North America. And probably they have absorbed a couple of thousand. Now, visas of people who were sitting in aircraft have been revoked by President Trump. So this is the kind of hypocrisy that you throw the entire burden on Pakistan, promise it that we'll take them in, let's say, 6 months. And still there are people who work like for the intelligence and translators and operators who are considered enemies by Taliban, and West is not ready to take them. So this is the kind of load that we had. Basically, I would say an entire elite actually ran away from there. Now, for Pakistan, I think enough is enough. One is if the Taliban thinks that Afghani is very strong, there is Aman and Shanti in Afghanistan. Why don't they take these people back? It's very much their own country. The other is the illegal spectrum that basically is held because of these illegal people. We don't know when they are not registered what is happening. So a lot of terrorist attacks were taking, and people are getting space within these camps or area. If you went to Islamabad, I think every street you'll find five or six houses, let's say hired by or rented by Afghan. So this is the kind of penetration that we have. So we have to put our foot down. Those who can go to the west, they should go there, and those who can fall back to their countries, and we can definitely help them. Now this is again, I think question should be asked from the Taliban: why women and these people who are retiring don't want to actually live under their regime? This is a very big question. It's all let's say pep talk and media discourse that people are very happy, and there are poets singing basically for one star. This is literally false. You go inside, you look at the northern resistance media, social media, you find what kind of environment people are living in, and there's a huge resistance. But all told, we wish well for the returnees, and the
Right.
Afghan government provided for.
Right, that is a million dollar questions. The question that why they don't want to go back, and when we look in the history, of course, we know that in 2016 there was a repatriation as well, and a lot of thousands of Afghans went back, returned to their homes. But Ijaz Saab, when we look at a situation at the point, at this moment, phase one of illegal foreigners repatriation plan covers undocumented migrants and PR holders, and that is going to be expiring on June 30th. So what is going to be Pakistan's fallback if these Afghan refugees don't go back to their home on time?
No, there are, as Brigadier Saab has just mentioned, there are different categories of these Afghan citizens who are currently legally or illegally residing in Pakistan. As far as the registered, legally authorized, Afghans, right now in this phase and the previous efforts, the Pakistan government is not targeting those Afghans. Pakistan is only targeting the category which either entered on some document which is no more valid or they entered illegally. So any country in the world can either repatriate these two categories straight away forcefully or put them in jail. I mean, any illegal person in any country under any law, under any human charter, under any UN applications, uh, you know, cannot live or reside in any country illegally. And as far as the hypocritic attitude of West is concerned, American Congress committed for 150,000 Afghanis in writing, provided funds. They will be repatriated to the designated countries. Some of them in America and some of the other countries who are part of that project. Only 15,000 could be repatriated, and remaining could not, because the Afghan Taliban, they were demanding, ransom for each person who was to be transported out of Afghanistan, Kabul. So the UAE-based the contractor, that company abandoned their efforts, and some of those have entered in Pakistan. They are in Islamabad mostly, and they cannot travel because they do not have valid travel documents. So what to do with these people? Obviously, we cannot afford to, linger on. We should take a stern action, and we must handle the media well. That we are not repatriating Afghans who were born here out of the registered Afghan refugees under arrangement with
These are illegal
UNHCR.
foreigners. Yeah,
These are only illegal people. We need to handle media well, and we should
of
not be.
course, because
I would just last
because
point,
there is
we should not be doing so. We
right,
should not be
rightly
about
pointed out. Yeah, of course,
we
there
must
is a lot of confusion when it comes to Afghan refugees because you rightly pointed out that this is not for the documented Afghan nationals, but for those who are illegal and who and now this is going to be extending to who have proof of registration cards. But we know that when it comes to refugees, Pakistan did all of this out of goodness of its heart. And Pakistan is not, of course, committed to any of UN's conventions like 1957 Refugee Convention or anything else. But at the same time, when we look at this visit, Mr. Dar announced 4 principled decisions on refugees. Number 1 was respectful return. Number 2, complaints mechanism, no ban on property purchases and permission to take back their belongings. But when we look at the operationalization of these 4 decisions, how do you think that Pakistan can reach out to far-flung areas, especially on the camps that are in the border, and how to differentiate between actual migrants or illegal foreigners and the terrorists? Because we know that TTP has, of course, taken a lot of its operational human resource from these camps as well.
I think the government of Pakistan has a fair amount of record of all these immigrants which have come from Afghanistan. They are registered in Nadra, and some record is available once they cross the border, and some record is available with intelligence agencies. So I think Pakistan various agencies knows where they are present. And what we need to do is that we have taken a decision. So this, as the Qaeda-e-Azam said, you take 100 times before you take a decision, but once you take a decision, then stand by it as one man. So I think this is the time you have given the deadline, that should be respected. And only,
but the deadline has already been extended from
but
April 30th.
they are still being
Yeah.
repatriated to Afghanistan. Only those refugees who have been registered with the United Nations, I think they have been given the time
June
frame of
30th deadline,
end of the June. So we should continue with that. And no, there is their own government is there. Of course, what we have sacrificed in last about over 40 years, we need to capitalize that. That should not be wasted. What we have got, for example, the Pakistan society, Pakistan government, Pakistan, the economy has been affected because of the presence of all these over 4 million refugees. So what good sentiments we have created, they should not go waste. We should repatriate them in a dignified way, in decent negotiation with the Afghanistan government. And as you have mentioned earlier, there has to be mechanism at the political level, where the head of the government and state should engage each other. Then there has to be mechanism at the level of foreign office. They should engage their counterparts regularly. Then there has to be mechanism at the general headquarters level. Military commanders should deal one-to-one with each other. They should visit, they should talk to each other. And then there has to be mechanism at the operation level. The people who are deployed along the border, they should also maintain contact with them. And but the main things are that the Afghanistan soil should not be allowed, should not be tolerated if it's used against us. Then all foreigners, especially Afghan refugees, and they should go back to their countries. Of course, we will assist them in the soft way, in the way of promoting education, giving them health facilities, enhancing
And
their...
Pakistan has been doing that for the
We
past
have been doing it, and no illegal activity should take place. So I think we just need to recalibrate and see our relation more objectively. But whatever goodwill we have achieved over the last over 4 decades, for example, in terms of our relation with them, the people who have been born here, who were raised here, know they're going back. So they have to go back decently and they can come back also. If they come back with the legal documents, they
Right,
can always
but at the
go.
same time, of course, dignity remains an important human right. But at the same time, Taliban are making claims of mistreatment of these refugees or illegal foreigners by the Pakistani government. So, how should Pakistan guard against these claims?
So there has to be a media campaign. We have to have a narrative which is superior to their narratives, and nothing can be more successful than you project the reality. So we have to counter them. One is through the Afghan government, second is through a media, and with the superior narrative, we can always counter such negative and anti-Pakistan state propaganda.
Right, and now let's talk about trade and economic ties between Pakistan and Afghanistan, because that remains an important issue. And of course, in this visit between both the countries and both the leaders, Pakistan cut tariffs on a large number of trade goods. What reciprocal actions should Afghanistan be giving to Islamabad at this point in time, and what should we be pushing about as far as connectivity is concerned?
Mariam, I think not only Pakistan but many countries in this region, they have their stakes with Afghanistan, and especially once we are talking about the connectivity. Then there is, we are talking about the trade between the two countries and the economic activity between the two countries, but there is another shadow economic activity, that is the illegal spectrum, which is especially, attached with the Afghanistan, especially smuggling of goods and smuggling of even dollars from Pakistan to Afghanistan. And there are not many actors inside Pakistan also and inside Afghanistan also who are, they're bringing wealth to themselves but not to the states. So that area has also we should be looking into that area also, and we should be taking measures in that regard also. Of course, the bilateral trade is very, very important, and again, as General Tariq was saying, that lot of sympathy I can feel in him for Afghanistan. Of course, the humanity in Afghanistan is, they're the sufferers. They are the main sufferers of the Afghani people, and they are the victim of this complex game which is happening in this region. Pakistan is taking care of them, but has to take care of them. But unfortunately, they have pushed us to the walls, to be very honest. And now, in the earlier part of my, the earlier part of this program, I was talking about the will of the Afghani people, Afghanistan government, sorry. And now I will speak about the will of the Pakistani government. We always come out with lot of plans, lot of announcements, lot of things, and then we have apprehensions whether we'll be able to implement this or not. I think the time has come to take out all the black sheeps inside Afghanistan also and inside Pakistan also. There are so many scuttlers inside Pakistan who are also attached with this illegal spectrum, illegal smuggling, lot many things with the Afghani, these people who are living in Pakistan, they are attached with them. So anybody who is trying to scuttle the effort of the government within Pakistan should be brought under strict rules and laws. They should be given exemplary punishment. Look, that these were the Pakistanis, Pakistan state had decided, they had come out with a mechanism, and these were the scuttlers, these were the people, whether sitting in Nadra or sitting in any part of the official offices, they should be brought under justice. Till the time you don't show, these media campaigns and teaching and talking good and
because
all, this
we
is
know
not
that
happening.
A lot of fake ID cards
Yes.
were made
Not
for
many,
Afghan
not many,
nationals, and
yes.
now there is a crackdown on those Afghan nationals, which is being, of course, portrayed as mistreatment by the Taliban government. But at the same time, as we are coming to the conclusion of the show, security remains a key issue. If TTP continues its attack even after these assurances from Kabul, what should be Pakistan's plan B?
I think Pakistan should go, should use all the elements, all the power what they have in all domains, because this is a serious application against Pakistan. We are facing insurgency in Balochistan, and there is an application in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa by those Khawarij who wants to change our way of life. So this is a serious threat to our sovereignty. This is a serious threat to our people. So we have to take it as a war. So war has to be fought by the political leadership of Pakistan. So through whole of a nation approach, the political leadership must take the ownership of this war. They should lead this war, and as far as kinetics are concerned, which is an instrument of this political process, we always, separate the politics and diplomacy and the military. No, military is part of the politics. This is another tool.
And of course, economy cannot work out
yes, it cannot
without
work
security.
Out. So this is a serious challenge, Mariam. We have to set the precedence. Pakistan don't have space in any domain. We cannot take chances now, no more chances, because every country in the world are taking care of their, interest. So talking of the morality, responsibility, and unfortunately, Pakistan has suffered because of this responsible stance towards the international stability and peace. We have suffered. We have suffered the most. We have sacrificed the most. Now time has come that the hard state we are talking about, practical implementation of policies with lawfare, strict lawfare, and strict following of whatever we have decided. Now there is no way going back.
Right, now there is no way going back. And finally, last comment from you, General Tariq, that if you were to devise Pakistan-Afghanistan foreign policy blueprint, what would be 2 to 3 non-negotiables for you so that we do not repeat past mistakes?
I think one is that we see our relationship very objectively on reciprocity basis. And then we make sure that Afghanistan government give us this pledge and promise that their soil is not utilized for any activity, whether it's India, whether it is RAW, whether it's TTP or BLA, to be used against Pakistan. And we should convince them that the future in Afghanistan, future of both countries are linked to each other. If Pakistan is prosperous and peaceful, Afghanistan will also become peaceful. So we are connected to each other in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity, and their majority population is Pashtun, which is living this side of the border also. So we need to capitalize. But of course, making sure, as the Chief of Army Staff said, that Pakistan should act like a hard state. Our action should be like a nuclear power, one of the strongest having military, and anybody who's trying to undermine our sovereignty in any shape, anything which has happened against even a single Pakistani, or anything which is being contemplated, or they are doing it against the state of Pakistan, we should choose all options starting from taking out those by airstrike, or action to all spectrum, from smallest to the fairest action. We should be able to take it at the operation level, or
Right.
a strategic level, or at a political level.
Of course, and Pakistan's sovereignty and security remains at the forefront when we talk about Pakistan's ties with any country. I thank all 4 of my panelists for joining us in today's program. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.